After the assassination attempt on Daenerys Targaryen, Khal Drogo finds himself in a delicate situation and promises Daenerys that he will trample Westeros and bring the great Khalasar to the lands that dared to conspire against his Khaleesi. Instead of falling ill and dying due to the witch's false remedy, it is another Dothraki who kills the woman named Mirri Maz as soon as she offers to tend to the wound on the Khal's chest. Fate had other plans for the feared Khal, but since his subordinate killed the woman claimed by Daenerys, he was executed by the Khal's hand for disrespect. Drogo survives, though his fury and thirst for vengeance consume him. The Dothraki leader, with the strength and determination of a true warrior, puts into practice one of his greatest principles: vengeance. By Daenerys' side, Drogo begins to plan his revenge. He knows that Westeros, with its complex web of alliances and betrayals, will be a difficult land to conquer, but nothing will stop him. He will ultimately seek the total destruction of Westeros as a means to honor his pride and ensure the safety of his wife and son, the future of his bloodline. His rage and desire for vengeance have taken over his mind and heart, and the Dothraki army is the only thing that can lead him to his goal. From Pentos, Drogo begins assembling his colossal war fleet. The city of Pentos, a place known for its wealth and resources, becomes the starting point for the war empire he intends to create. He sends a messenger to Magister Yomo Mopatis, who was known for his power and influence in the city. After much negotiation and agreements, Mopatis agrees to gather a fleet of ships to transport the 50,000 Dothraki warriors Drogo has assembled for his campaign. He not only commands the 10,000 warriors of his own Khalasar, but has now unified several other Khalasars, a rare feat among the Dothraki, but not impossible for a leader who demonstrates sufficient strength. To reinforce his power, Drogo makes promises of victories, political alliances, and generous plunder in Westeros during the years Daenerys raises Rhaego. While she nurtures the future of their bloodline, Drogo sees every raid and victory as another step toward destroying the kingdom of the men who tried to take his life and that of his wife. In Westeros, the threat of Khal Drogo does not go unnoticed. Robert Baratheon, still recovering from injuries sustained during the boar hunt, receives alarming news from his spies. The Dothraki are approaching with an impressive force. Magister Yomo Mopatis, in collaboration with other Associ merchants, has helped Drogo assemble a fleet to transport his immense war host. Robert, weakened by his accident, knows the Dothraki invasion could mean the end of his dynasty. In a secret council, Robert, who survived the boar attack, summons his key advisors, Pycelle, Varys, Littlefinger, and Ned Stark. They discuss Drogo's movements and the consequences of an imminent attack in grave tones. Even without Daenerys' dragons, the Dothraki Empire is growing and spreading across the continent. Ned Stark, though cautious, recognizes the gravity of the situation and suggests an alliance with the other kingdoms of Westeros, a risky but necessary strategy to face the Great Khal. Robert, with his explosive temper, shouts, "I've fought these savages in many battles before. I won't surrender to a bunch of madmen from Essos. But what we cannot do is underestimate Drogo's strength." The sound of his hammer slamming the table echoes through the room, but the advisors know that, even weakened, King Baratheon remains the undisputed leader of Westeros. Yet the next moves will be decisive for the survival of his throne. Meanwhile, the tide of Dothraki destruction continues to rise. They are on the march, and no one in Westeros can predict the impact Khal Drogo's arrival will have on the kingdoms of Iron and Earth. As news of Khal Drogo and his 50,000 Dothraki spreads across Westeros, a shadow of uncertainty begins to loom over the Seven Kingdoms. Lords and barons start questioning Robert Baratheon's ability to defend the realm against such a threat. In the Riverlands and the Stormlands, many minor houses begin expressing distrust, and at the same time, ambition. Some see in Drogo's force an opportunity to break the chains binding them to the Iron Throne. Others consider an alliance with the Dothraki, believing a new power could restore order in the realm, whether through negotiation or submission. The Kingdom of Westeros, traditionally united under the crown, begins to fracture even before any battle is fought. The prospect that Robert, already weakened, may be unable to face the invader creates mounting pressure. Political tensions erupt, and the first signs of rebellions begin to emerge. Ned Stark, recognizing the gravity of the situation, acts swiftly. He understands that Drogo's threat goes beyond a simple local conflict. This is not a common rebellion. It is a conquering force, a vast army capable of annihilating any resistance. With the Dothraki threat at the door, Ned sends ravens to Winterfell, demanding all northern houses prepare to march south. Robb Stark, his son, begins rallying the vassals much earlier than planned. As the North prepares for war, Khal Drogo's army lands in Westeros. His immense and relentless host crushes any resistance in its path. Coastal cities, minor kingdoms, and even small villages are quickly devastated by Dothraki fury. The land is marked with blood, sex, and fire, and any attempt at resistance is mercilessly crushed. In King's Landing, internal conflict reaches dramatic proportions. Robert Baratheon struggles to calm the court's fears. Meanwhile, Tywin Lannister watches the situation closely. He, who has always maintained tight control over House Lannister's finances and power, sees an opportunity. The chaos in King's Landing and Robert's instability lead Tywin to act on his own. Without waiting for the king's orders, Tywin gathers a massive army and marches south. His goal is not to protect the Iron Throne, but to crush Khal Drogo and use the moment to further consolidate his house's power. Tywin knows that with Drogo's destruction, he can become the greatest political force in Westeros, and that is more valuable to him than any loyalty to the crown. What seemed like an attack to save the realm quickly turns into a power play, where Tywin seeks his own legacy, unconcerned with the consequences for the other kingdoms. The kingdom of Westeros fractures not only physically but politically, as old allies become enemies, and war seems inevitable. Tywin managed to gather around 30,000 soldiers, but these numbers were not enough to stop the Khalazar. They were the first significant casualties for Westeros, and the first enemies worth facing for the Dothraki. The war between Khal Drogo and Robert Baratheon intensifies as the two armies approach each other in the Stormlands. The impact of the Dothraki invasion is already evident, with cities and villages devastated, and Drogo's forces now march to face the king's army. Robert refuses to abandon his kingdom. He knows this is his last chance to hold the Iron Throne, and his pride as a warrior and king prevents him from yielding. Yet Drogo's forces are immense, and there is no doubt the Khal is determined to destroy everything in his path. Robert's army, already weakened by the Lannisters' failure, is reduced in strength. The houses that once supported him are beginning to doubt his leadership. Moreover, Robert himself knows the battle against Drogo will be a fight to the death, and the real question lingering in the air is whether he has the power to resist the impending chaos. Khal Drogo, on the other hand, has marched relentlessly, leaving a trail of destruction behind. His army, composed of 50,000 Dothraki warriors, is fierce and unbeatable in open terrain. The strength of the Khalasar is a mix of nomadic riders, raiders, and skilled warriors, all with an insatiable thirst for blood and conquest. Drogo's forces fear no death. They fight with a ferocity that makes the ground tremble. Drogo's strategy is simple: annihilate any resistance and make the kingdoms of Westeros bow to his power. On the day of battle, the field is marked by a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Robert, mounted on his imposing steed, surveys the ranks of his army, now far from the strength he once commanded. He knows the clash will be brutal. On one side, the Dothraki, swift and ruthless, ready to destroy. On the other, himself, weakened, but with the courage he has left. The sun rises on the horizon, casting a golden light over the battlefield, and the war begins. Drogo's strategy is clear. He orders his cavalry to charge in a lightning attack, with the force of his Khalasar crushing Robert's defenses in the first moments of the fight. The Dothraki cavalry advances with speed and precision, attacking the flanks of Robert's forces with a ferocity the men of Westeros were unprepared to face. Dothraki spears gleam in the sun, piercing the steel armor of soldiers, while swords cut with precision through limbs and heads, and whips ensnare and terrify soldiers left at the mercy of the savages. The Dothraki warriors show no mercy, and every strike is a killing blow. Robert nonetheless fights. He leads the remaining men of his army with a battle roar, but he knows his forces are at a disadvantage. His body, fat and aged, is no longer the same. His movements are slower, his strikes heavier. Robert's forces begin to falter. The numerical superiority and ferocity of the Dothraki army are overwhelming. The battlefield soon turns into a field of chaos, where soldiers fall without knowing what hit them. Robert tries to resist, but resistance is futile against Drogo's might. The battle drags on for hours, but the Dothraki's superiority is undeniable. In the end, the battlefield is littered with bodies. Robert's men, though valiant, are massacred by the unstoppable force of the Khalasar. At this crucial moment, Ned Stark arrives at the battlefield with the Northern Army, over 30,000 strong. Considering the casualties the Khalasar suffered in battles against Tywin and Robert, Westeros now has the advantage. With the help of his experienced soldiers, familiar with fighting in difficult terrain, Ned turns the tide. He organizes a strategic defense, dividing his forces to attack the flanks and sow confusion in the Dothraki lines. The impact of Ned's army's arrival is immediate. The Dothraki, though fierce, are unprepared for the North's well-coordinated tactics. Seizing the disorder, Ned and his men attack with force, breaking the cavalry ranks and forcing the Dothraki to retreat. Robert, though wounded, finds himself saved thanks to Ned's courage. Together they defeat the Khalasar, and the Dothraki army, unable to react, is decimated. Ned's victory not only saves Robert, but also ensures the survival of Westeros in the face of the Dothraki's threat. Khal Drogo is captured, tried, and beheaded before Robert's eyes. He spits at the feet of his executioner, Robert himself, who, after hearing Ned say, "The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword," carries out the deed. Daenerys is imprisoned and also beheaded, without uttering a single word to those she considered usurpers. And Rhaego, at 5 years old, is spared death by the intervention of House Stark's leader. His sentence is to be carried out in Winterfell, with the intention that he be raised well and harbor no future vengeance against the crown.